Hello, everybody. Welcome to the AAC Wrap-Up Show. I'm your host, Coach K Green 829. Before we get into this, just a little things I want to say. Sorry for the delay for getting this with football coming back. Usually, I set everything up on Saturday and Sunday, so I have it all up and ready to go. But with football, I was too busy watching football to actually get that done. So a little delayed. Also, I got a new mic. Me doing the show was actually a great excuse for me to finally buy like an actual mic. So I have that, and I haven't really set it up too much. I've done a little bit of like messing around with it. Let me know how it sounds. I think it sounds pretty good, but if you think things can be improved, just let me know. Well, that's all I have going into it. So let's start getting into the games. And first up, we had USF going to Tulsa. Tulsa Hurricanes, rough season to this point. They were 1-6, and they're going up against a USF team that has looked okay throughout the season. They're 3-4, but nothing too impressive. But nothing that says they're a bad team. They're a middle of the pack team. And Tulsa, they looked like they're getting it together. I know I said it when they got their first one, but they looked like they're starting to put it together. They got a 31-17 win at home over USF. Yes, being at home helps, but it just looked like everything was clicking for them. The offense was firing on all cylinders. No interceptions for quarterback Marquise Ecule, and he had 3 touchdowns, 313 yards. Was sacked four times, so that's something that I would keep an eye on. But other than that, it was a great game through the air. And then Romulo Nene caps it off with a rushing touchdown. But Brandon Pipkins, who has been a star player for Tulsa and has been somebody who's been picking up a lot of points for them, on 26 attempts, got 167 yards, but just could not find the end zone. A great game regardless, but it would have been a much better game if he was able to find the end zone on just one of those runs and get a touchdown. But anyways, a great game by Pipkins and a great game by Pipkins and a great game by the entire Tulsa offense. And I mean, even going further, just locking down USF, not allowing them to get any real movement started on the passing game. They only got their 2 touchdowns on the ground. One by running back Kyle Higbee, or one by quarterback Kyle Higbee, who ran the ball 23 times for 125 yards, and one for running back Kevin Recker, who ran the ball 15 times for 33 yards. Then field goals. USF's kicker Luke Godwin missed a field goal. He went 1 for 2. But other than that, everyone made their extra points and field goals. And it was just a very solid game for Tulsa. They really looked like they put it together, and they get the win 31-17. It's a really good win for them. It's a win that I feel like they deserved, and it's a win that I feel like they can build off of, moving forward. I have the schedule pulled up, so let me just check. But if I remember correctly, they're going out of conference, and they're going to be playing a tough opponent next week in Kentucky. So that's going to be a very tough game for Tulsa. But if Tulsa can get a win against Kentucky, they are at home. A bit of an advantage for them, but if they can get a big win against a out-of-conference opponent in Kentucky, a team that's looked really good for a lot of the season, they could potentially run the table, then finish with, their only away game for the rest of the season is Week 13 at Houston. They can beat UCF, East Carolina, and Houston, and, that's finishing the season with 6 wins, which, it's a bit of a disappointment coming off of a national championship winning season a season where you won the Natty, but a season where you start off 1 for 6 and you can end 6-6 is, if you can end 6-6, that's very impressive to do. So if they can pull this off, a big win against Kentucky can really get them rolling and kind of salvage the season for them. But that's enough about Tulsa and USF. We're gonna move on to Cincinnati at Houston. So also sorry, I forgot to mention. For any AAC teams, and if you're playing an AAC team. I have these pictures up. I usually like go and try and find different pictures for like each week, but I ran out of pictures to find. So if you have any like specific pictures you want me to use, just send it to me and I'll use that. I don't really have too much of a preference. But after that, back to the game. Like I said, Houston's a scary, scary team. Only 2-5 going into this game, but they are a very scary team, and they showed it against 4-4 Cincinnati, routing them 42-3. They allowed a field goal. They let their foot off the gas in the fourth quarter, letting Cincinnati get on the board with a field goal. But I mean, this Houston team, again, when they are on, they are on. They haven't been able to they haven't been on too much, but when they get going and when they're on, they are on. Quarterback Trevor Cawthron, 26 attempts, 20 completions, 172 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Then quarterback turned running back Devontae Doyle, 44 attempts, 243 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. And then running back Moses Walker, who, I would say had the best game out of everyone in this game. 21 attempts, 99 yards, and an insane 3 touchdowns. Absolutely insane to get. I mean, to get 3 touchdowns on the ground is impressive, but he scored a touchdown every 7th carry. That's very impressive. It was a great game. And then even in the passing game, things started to click for them. Not too many incompletions. Trevor Cawthron was on target, and his receivers were making the catches. And he got a touchdown pass. He had 2 touchdown passes. One of them was to wide receiver Michael Kirksey, and the other was to wide receiver Jacob Virgin. Just like I said, very solid game for Houston. Houston just did everything they needed to, and they took down a Cincinnati team that while 4-4 going into this game has been pretty good. They were on a slide since losing their coach. But they're still a talented team. And to go over and get a win, you're at home, but to get a win against Cincinnati, a team that I still think is one of the more talented teams in the AAC, a big achievement for Houston. I'd love to see how they build on this. Hopefully not too much, and I will get to why. It's mostly because I'm playing them next week. But, like I said, really good game. And then, even the defense was getting involved. John Lee, defensive end, recovered a fumble that was forced by free safety Stephen Leonard. If you look at the tackles, it's just evenly split out. You had 4 guys with 5. You had 4 guys on the Houston defense with 5 tackles. Then 2 with 4, and then another 2 with 3. Just everyone was getting involved in a great game and a great day for Houston. Next up, we have, because there's an odd number of teams, unless we have an odd number of teams taking bye weeks. I keep turning away from the mic because I'm not used to the mic not being on my headset, so I'm trying to adjust to that. So sorry if the volume goes down. That's my bad. But every week, unless we have an odd number of bye weeks, a team has to play an out-of-conference game. And the unlucky team for that this week, because we don't win many of these out-of-conference games, was SMU, and they drew undefeated Michigan State. And this game, I will say, did not go as badly as you would have thought. So, Michigan State is 6-0 going into this game, and SMU is 1-6. Everything's pointing to a Michigan State blowout win. They're going to advance to 7-0. And I had thought that too. And while the final score was a Michigan State win, 49-27, it was still, a good game for SMU. The fact that they were able to hang in there for a while, at the end of the first half, the score was Michigan State 7, SMU 10. But SMU's defense just collapsed. Their offense was able to keep pace with what they've done with 3 points in the first quarter, 7 points in the second, another 7 in the third, and then 10 points in the fourth quarter. But the defense just ran out of juice at halftime. In the third quarter, after the halftime break, they allowed Michigan to score 28 points, and then in the fourth quarter, Michigan gets another 14. That's where they really ran away with the game. But like I said, SMU's defense didn't do too bad until the end of that game. While Wayne Murray, the quarterback for Michigan State, had 3 touchdowns, he also threw 3 interceptions and was sacked 5 times. Uh, Promising things for SMU. Quarterback Tyler Graham had 2 touchdowns, and I mean, they had Michigan State. Just, I mean, again, they're an unbelievable team. They had 3 receivers over 100 yards, which is insane. But if I'm SMU, this is going out to a verified thing. If he's still here, SMU's coach. I I'm pretty happy with this game. You go up against a team that is highly ranked, almost a luck for to get into the college football playoffs, and you know you stay with them. You stay with them, and you end the first half with a lead. You just ran out of fuel. You end up losing by 22, which is a big loss. But you were able to be on par with one of the best teams in the sim for 2 quarters, and that is something to be proud of. Um, you know, Michigan State is one of the better teams in the sim, so it is. If you can, just to say that you hung in with them for 1 quarter is insane. 2 quarters, especially for a team like SMU, who is 1-6 entering this game, dropping to 1-7, who struggled all season. Huge victory for them. Uh, people debate, are quality losses a thing? If they are, this is an example of that. This is it's a loss, but I feel if I'm the coach of SMU, I'm coming away thinking that's more. Yeah, I lost the game, but I can also see how I won that game, being able to keep up with them. I know I keep talking about that game, but really shocked that SMU was able to keep pace with Michigan State, even if it was just for the first half. Next up, we have one of two of my spotlight in kind of primetime matches, and it is Navy. It is Memphis at Navy. So this is 1-5, 2-5 Memphis at 1-5 Navy. Navy coming off of their first win, um, against Tulsa, and you know they were looking to keep the ball rolling, and they had a great game. They won 26-7. They scored in every single quarter. Scored 14 in the first half with 2 touchdowns, and in the second half scored 12 with 4 field goals. I believe. Let me double check that. Yeah, 4 field goals. Missed 1 field goal. Memphis was hurt by their quarterback, who is playing kicker for them, missing 2 field goals, but final score was 26-7. Those 2 field goals didn't really make a difference. Going back to uh, what's going right and wrong. Navy looked really good. Because I know their running game has been consistently okay, but they've struggled to find the passing game. And what's really changed is last week and this week, they were able to get the passing game going. 225 yards and 1 touchdown, no interceptions, only sacked 3 times. Benny Ramirez had a really great game. And then on the ground, Donald Perkins, 185 yards on 31 attempts. Alberto Martin, 88 yards on 14 attempts. Martin picking up a touchdown. Was just huge for this team. But I feel like the absolute player of the game has to go to Wes Asuna, because the biggest problem for Navy has been they've been dropping balls. They haven't been able to secure catches. Wes Asuna was targeted 11 times, and he made 8 catches for 105 yards. No touchdowns, but to see somebody consistently grabbing, making these catches is very promising for Navy. They can keep this up. Their offense is a lot better than what it's shown. They just need the receivers to catch the footballs, and it looks like they're trending in that direction. So they can finish off. They can finish off the season with a promising record. Not going to get too ahead of myself, but I mean, Navy could pick up a couple more wins, and I mean maybe look at middle of the pack of the AAC, which a couple weeks ago being dead last with no wins, I mean, is a huge win for Navy. Uh, Next up, we have another game that on paper looked good, and it's Temple versus it's East Carolina at Temple. Temple's 4, East Carolina's at 4-3. In my rankings, I had East Carolina as the third best team in the AAC and Temple as the fourth. So I thought this was going to be a really interesting game, but I was not prepared for what this game actually was. Temple started quarterback Levine for the first time. Okay, and you want to talk about college debuts? 51 attempts, 32 completions, 632 yards, and 7 touchdowns. No interceptions, was sacked 3 times. His quarterback rating is 212.13. Absolute domination. Temple destroys East Carolina by a score of 52 to nothing. Just, again, like I said, complete domination. East Carolina's quarterback, Steven Rivero, he's not the best at passing. He's more of an athletic guy. He threw an interception on 26 attempts, only got 9 completions for 50 yards. But on the ground, 20 attempts for 108 yards. But, they just couldn't score. And, what's even more impressive is wide receiver Matthew Cunningham and tight end Don Scott, both over 200 yards receiving. Cunningham getting 4 touchdowns, Scott getting 2, and the last receiving touchdown going to wide receiver Tajon Hecker, who got 79 receiving yards. Just a great game all around by Temple. They really showed their stuff, and they're really going to shoot up in the rankings because of that. Absolutely insane. And now this brings us to our last game, which also, this was the primetime game. This was the big game everyone in the AAC was looking forward to. It is UCF at Tulane. And Tulane's 5-1 going into this game. UCF's 5-2. I had them as Tulane at 1 and UCF at 2 in my AAC ranking. So, this was going to be a very important match. Coming down the stretch, not a lot of football left to play. We're starting to come down to the end of the season. This game could be huge. Tulane takes a loss here. They can see a serious hit in the rankings. UCF's also, they are recently getting some love in the polls, getting some votes, not being officially ranked yet. But both teams had a lot to play for. It just came down to who wanted it more, and I think Tulane wanted it a bit more. They were able to win by a final score of 27-17, winning by 10. Some miscues, some things that Tulane's going to have to clear up. Bronson Morrow, 46 attempts, 28 completions for 453 yards and 3 touchdowns. The downside being he also threw 2 interceptions. Morrow has kept his interception. He hasn't thrown too many interceptions. He had a bit of a problem at the beginning of the season, and with this 2 interception game, after not throwing interceptions for a little bit, makes me scared that he can go back to his old ways, but hoping he can right the ship. Next up, going through, running game continued to struggle for Tulane. Lexi Patterson, 13 attempts for only 45 yards. Elodie Thomas, 4 attempts for 25 yards and a touchdown. Hector Lee, 3 attempts for 4 yards. And quarterback Bronson Morrow, 1 attempt for -1 yard. It's something that I've thought about and probably am going to do next week is I'm going to try my fullback at running back just because of his ace strength. See if he can, have a good game running the ball. Just because I need the running game to be a little bit better. Passing game is where I want it for the most part. I just want the running game to be a little bit better. Going back to the passing game, though, Fernando Thomas in talks as a finalist for the Heisman Trophy. Was targeted 21 times, bringing in 14 catches for 310 yards and 2 touchdowns. Just a great game by Fernando Thomas. It feels like every week he just has a great game. 100% deserves to be in the Heisman conversation. I don't think he's done enough, and I don't think he will do enough to win it. There are some very impressive kids playing some really impressive football. But Fernando Thomas has played his way into like to being to being like in the around the conversation, and I'm happy for that because I didn't think that I would see that much like that level of success. Going back to UCF, what went wrong? I was able to shut down the running game. UCF usually there's two things. So UCF, I've noticed this. They win games two ways. They win games with a strong rushing attack and through their defense. And the rushing game was almost completely eliminated. Stephen Herter, their lead back, 21 attempts, only went for 86 yards and a touchdown. Jordan Glasgow, their second running back, 7 attempts for 38 yards. Third back, Brent Castro, 2 attempts for 6 yards. They couldn't get much going on the ground. I turned away from the mic, so I was softer there. Sorry about that. Trying to not do that anymore. But couldn't get much on the ground. And then in terms of defense, you know, their defense has been great all season, and I feel like that's why Morrow threw 2 interceptions. But the thing with my offense and the way I've built this Tulane offense is it's a very explosive offense. Okay, um, UCF's done good at sustained defense, and just okay. We're gonna bend, don't break. We're gonna hold them. But the way that my offense works is we pick up a lot of yards on plays, like on chunk plays. I feel like it was just a mismatch for UCF. And that was able to overcome their defense. That's just a thought, though. I'm not 100% sure. Uh, Adam Edwards, the kicker for Tulane, who nobody likes, and everyone's counting down the days till we find his replacement. Missed an extra point again because he's incompetent. Uh, Sorry. Moving on. I didn't do like top three picture rankings for the AAC. I just have the rankings here. So rankings, we got Tulane staying at number one at 6-1. 6-1, 4-0 in the country. UCF keeping them at number two. Temple had a very impressive game, so close to taking down UCF. But I choose to keep UCF at two just because, again, it's more sustained. Temple has had an up and down rocky season. They've had a good season. At times, they've had a bad season. UCF has just been more, in terms of consistency. Well, I feel like UCF is a more talented team. I feel like Temple's playing a little bit better. UCF is a little more consistent. And my rankings, like I said, not official like AAC rankings, not official conference rankings, just me ranking all of the teams based on how I feel, not just the performance, but how I feel, they are. Performance is taken into account, record is taken into account, but not the end all be all. So UCF stays at two. Um, Temple is at three. East Carolina moves down to four after beating Cincinnati. Houston and Cincinnati swap. Houston moving up to 5 from 6. Cincinnati dropping from 6 to 5. Now here's where we get to the big move. Navy coming off their second straight win. Rockets up to 7. And the big part of this is Tulsa beat USF. All right, and Tulsa, like I said, in the Tulsa game, where they beat USF, it was find it. Tulsa, they won 31-17. It's a very dominant win. So, Tulsa has to have the edge over USF. But Navy beat Tulsa already. And Navy had a nice win over Tulsa. So Navy has to go over that. So they benefit from Tulsa beating USF, which really just brings USF down to 9th. Then rounding out the bottom, we have Memphis at 10th and SMU at 11th. You know, it's when I look at the record for the AAC, I mean, I see a lot of. I feel like it's very bunched together. Like, got a couple. You've got Tulane, the high-ranking teams, only with one loss. And then you have a couple, and then you have, mostly. Then you have low-ranking teams, which are, only 1 or 2 or 3 wins. Then mid-ranking teams, which are the teams that have 3 losses, 4 losses, maybe 5 losses, depending on their schedule. So very like I said, it's a AAC's not the strongest conference, but we do have some teams that can play and teams that make that play interesting football games every week. So it's always a fun conference to keep your eyes on. It's not like the ACC, Big Ten, or the SEC where you have huge juggernauts going up against each other each week. But uh, AAC tends to have some nice. Now, time to get into the next segment, and that is recruiting. There was a lot of recruiting action for the AAC. We will start it off with, I think, the biggest one, the biggest commitment this week. There are a lot of big commitments, but I think the biggest one happens to be 4-star scrambling quarterback Stephen London committing to East Carolina University. C overall, C plus potential from North Carolina. From North Carolina, he takes a small trip south, comes down to South Carolina. And he's probably going to be their starting quarterback. I don't know, what the situation is. I'm not too invested in that, but I think he will be their starting quarterback next year. If not, he's going to redshirt a year, and then will probably be the starter. But he's going to be very interesting to see. Like I said, 4-star quarterback, scrambler, and I really think scramblers are interesting because we've seen so many of them have so much success running the ball. And if if we can find a scrambler that is able to develop a passing game, it'll be borderline unstoppable. So I'm just fascinated with scrambling quarterbacks. Big win for East Carolina. And they're not done. They keep it rolling as they get commitment from offensive guard Colby Mora, 4-star pass blocking guard, B overall, C potential. Another kid from North Carolina. I don't know what's going on in North Carolina, but they are letting their top players, cross the border and go to East Carolina. So I don't know. Maybe something they should watch a little bit more. But again, Colby Mora, huge pickup. BYU was on this offensive guard for a while, and East Carolina comes in very recently and puts a lot, focuses pretty much all of their efforts into recruiting this offensive guard, and they are able to pull off, an underdog win, 41% odds. They were able to get 2 big commitments this week. Absolutely huge for the ECU fan base and the ECU football team. They're really starting to flesh out that offense. You want to talk about another team starting to flesh out their offense? That brings us to our next team. That's Navy picking up 4-star running back commit from Kirk Ragland. C overall, C plus potential. And this is huge. They already got you look at Navy. They already got their quarterback. They got an offensive guard. Started, but with some defense. What's next? They add a running back. It looks like they're just getting ready to replace the entire offense. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Navy has struggled on offense this year, and they obviously realize that they have struggled, and they're making moves to go out and get some guys that they feel like can help them on the offensive end. And Kirk Ragland is somebody that can. Receiving running back, so he can play out of the backfield, or he can line up and catch passes, which is huge because they got that great new quarterback earlier in the cycle. So, looks like they're really trying to build a team around, around these young guys, bringing in young guys, all around the same time to really work together on this offense. It looks really promising, and I can't wait to watch, the connection between him and Young Hui. Sorry if I pronounced that name wrong. I'm not great at pronouncing names. But quarterback that committed to Navy previously. Next up, we have another commitment. This one was a contested one. The last one was contested. I forgot to mention it. Purdue was in on it, and Navy gets the 48% odds over Purdue. So big win for Navy. Next up, we had another tight one, and that was going to Tulane. Cornerback David Levine. Yes, I already used this edit, but I don't care. Sue me. Quarterback David Levine. Tennessee came in on him late and was able to get up to 46% odds, but with 54% odds, he went to Tulane. You know, B plus cornerback zone coverage. I mean, Tulane has made a commitment to strengthening their defensive backs and their cornerbacks. They are losing two good senior cornerbacks to graduation, and they're bringing in David Levine, and he's going to pair up with commit that they got earlier in the cycle, Oscar Reiser, another 4-star cornerback, B overall, B minus potential, and be that new young cornerback. Kind of replicate the duo that's leaving now, just be another version as them, because they've been a good duo in passing coverage, and it's always nice. If you get committed with a cornerback, two cornerbacks together, you go through your 4 years and you're starting next to each other every year. That's a special type of connection that forms. So maybe I'm just talking out of my ass. I probably am, but anyways, with that, Tulane lands the number 2 and number 7 ranked cornerbacks in the cycle in the nation. So huge for Tulane as they continue to really impress with their recruiting rankings, which takes them up to second. They are behind Penn State by a large margin, but they leapfrog Baylor and Purdue, who have very impressive classes. And you look at it, the AAC is doing pretty good in recruiting. You got Tulane at 2, you got Navy at the 7th best class, you got East Carolina with the 11th best class, and then you have to scroll down a little bit. But then 33rd, you have Houston, Tulsa at 38th. Then that's all you have for the recruiting classes. But the AAC has done a pretty good job in recruiting. And we get to another. By the way, all of these edits, this one for Tulane is not mine. I stole it. I steal all these edits pretty much from the internet. I scrub them and then I replace it with names. So moving on, we have our next one, and it is another cornerback. It is University of Houston taking the number 6 cornerback. I was talking about how the AAC is doing good in recruiting. They have 3 of the top 10 cornerbacks committed to them already, with a big win. 47% odds, got the steal over Baylor, who had 53% odds, and Michael Sweeney, 4-star, the overall C+ potential cornerback, is staying in Texas. Baylor was trying to tempt him out, but Houston makes a big effort to keep him home, and while he's not he's going to have to move a little bit, staying in Texas, big win for Houston. Big win for the team, big win for the fans, and just the program in general. And to land such a great cornerback. Not much else to say. Houston wanted to get him. He had a close to home affinity. And they went out and got him. Just really shows, they're committed to making their team better. They've had ups and downs this season, but they're committed to making the team better. And next up, we have, like I said, I make all of these edits, but coach of Tulsa, Ace Wolf, makes his own edit. So credit to Tulsa coach Ace Wolf for making this great edit for inside linebacker commit Jeffrey Adams, who they stole away from Texas. He's from Texas. Texas was pushing for him. He has the close to home affinity, but Tulsa with 40% odds, able to steal the 4-star C overall C plus potential inside linebacker who is primarily used as a run stopper. I leaned away from the mic, so sorry about that. Primarily used as a run stopper. But this is a huge get for Tulsa. They got some. I mean, they've gotten some big commitments already. I can't pull up the classes because the bot's down currently. But Tulsa's had a couple big commitments. And I know Caesar shown on the offensive end, and they've made a little bit of a commitment to defense, and Jeffrey Adams really helps them out. One the second best run stopper, at least in terms of inside linebacker in the class, only behind John Quinch, the 5-star that went to Taylor. So big, big, big get for Tulsa. Huge recruiting move. And that's the end of recruiting. Before we wrap it up, we're going to take a look at next week's game. So we had a very interesting slate this week, but we move on to now week 10. Starting off, Cincinnati getting their bye week. They have their bye week. First bye week since week 0. So much needed rest for them. Then they have 3 games, and then they end week 14 with the bye week. So, Cincinnati's got a chance to rest and, kind of recover for these last 3 games and try and make their last push to, making that AAC Conference Championship game, making the bowl game. Who knows what they're trying to achieve, but they've got a chance to kind of recuperate and make a push. Next, we have Temple. They're going to go and play Memphis. And this is going to be a big game for Temple. Memphis is coming off of a disappointing loss against Navy. And, they can get a win against conference opponent Memphis, at Memphis. Then, they bring the momentum of, beating East Carolina, beating Memphis at Memphis, into going, into Tulane to play Tulane, who they play in week 12. So, it will be a big game and, be a little bit of a test before Tulane, a little bit of a warm-up game. And Temple still has a lot to play for. Them at number 3 in the AAC, they are still very much in play to make the conference championship game and, a bowl game. So every game is important. They've got 3 games left in AAC play. Memphis, Tulsa, and then they finish AAC play at home against SMU. So they get tough team in Tulsa, sandwiched between 2 relatively easy games in Memphis. Next up, we have East Carolina. After a disappointing loss to Temple, they are planning to bounce back against a team that has not, produced all season, and that's SMU. It's going to be at SMU. It's going to be a little tough, but, if there's a game that East Carolina can use to bounce back, and, there was talks of them making the conference championship game, if there's one game where they need to bounce back, and I think they can bounce back, it's this game against SMU. They got a pretty easy schedule to finish off. They play SMU, then they play Charlotte, Tulsa, and then Memphis. So, one of the easier remaining schedules in the AAC. They've already gone through some of the more tough teams. But not saying it's a cakewalk. Tulsa, despite their record, is still a very talented team. You never know what's going to happen. Next up, you have Navy, and they're going to UCF. Navy has now won 2 straight at home against Tulsa and at home against Memphis. They're going to see if they can bring that momentum on the road when they go down to Florida to play UCF. This game will be huge because Navy looks like they're finally getting their team, on the right track. They're getting their offense rolling. And, this is going to be the test for them. This is going to be the test that determines. And this is going to be the answer to the question. If they win this game, then it means that they are 100% in it. They can compete for a bowl game this season. And if not, then it's time to start looking for next season. it's going to be a real test for the offense because UCF, as I said before, is known for their incredible defense and locking teams down. It's going to be a tough game for, like I said, going to be a tough game for UCF. Or sorry, going to be a tough game for Navy, but UCF coming off of a loss to Tulane has a lot to prove, and they're going to have to pick up this win against Navy, and then they play a couple of easier teams down the line, but they're going to have to pick up every one of those wins if they want to a chance of facing getting revenge on Tulane in the conference championship. That's even if Tulsa makes it. Like I said, not Tulsa, Tulane. That's only if Tulane makes it. Because yes, Tulane is 6-1 and undefeated in play, but I feel like they have the hardest schedule remaining in the AAC. And week 10, they play at Houston. I said, scary team. I say it every week. A scary team who shows up in big games like they did this week. They showed up this week. They showed up against number 6 TMU, and they showed up against another team. I forget which one off the top of my head. But that is a game that if Tulane is not on their game, they can easily win. Next up, after that, they go back home, but it's not a cakewalk because they're going up against Temple. Like I said, Temple is also rolling. Temple's a team that has a lot to play for. And they're going to be fighting hard to try and make the AAC conference game. And then, while still at home, they have to play USF, who is another team that is still in the running for the AAC conference championship. They're running through a couple teams, and then after that, Cincinnati. So they're running through a couple teams that are hungry for wins. Good teams that are hungry for wins that still have a lot to play for. And then they end the season week 14 at Air Force, the neutral site game, though, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong on that though, but so Tulane might not even make the conference championship game because if you look at their schedule to this point, they beat Ole Miss, they beat North Texas, Memphis, Navy, and Tulsa. So you look at the teams they've beat. None of them have had particularly good seasons. The only time they played a team that's been having a good season was when they went to Indiana to play Indiana, and they lost that game. So, it's going to be a test for Tulane. They're going to have to go through some of the better teams. It started this week against UCF, but they're going to have to go through some top teams in the AAC to prove that they deserve to be at the conference championship game and ranked. Because keep in mind, they're slowly climbing up the rankings as more and more teams lose and fall. Tulane's picking up these wins in the AAC, SEC, 10, 12, AFC, and all those other conferences. Cannibalize himself. Tulane is slowly inching up further and further. And last game, we have Tulsa. And they get the unlucky draw of having to play the out-of-conference game. They're going up against a tough Kentucky. Like I said, Tulsa's going to be at home. But like I said before, Kentucky's a really good team. And a big win against Kentucky can really change the whole momentum and the whole feeling of the season. Because if they get that and they go on a run to finish it, 6-6, while not the season you want after winning a national championship, still a respectable season, especially when you consider that you started the season off 1-6. So, a lot to play for Tulsa. Every team in the AAC, whether it's a conference championship game, whether it's to try and make a bowl game or try and salvage something from a disappointing season, every team in the AAC is still playing for something, and something that makes all these games interesting. That's all I have. Still don't have an ending. And instead of just rambling, I'm just going to end it. So thank you for listening to the AAC show. We'll be back next week. Probably not right after recruiting comes out. I'll see if I have time to do that. If not, then you know, it's just not meant to be. Uh, so yeah, uh, you know, a lot of stuff happening. Very exciting time. We're coming down to the end of the season, so it's gonna be very exciting. You know, just to get out there and play some non AAC teams again. And get into the playoffs. Even if I don't make it with Tulane, just get into playoff college football. Well, I just can't wait for that. So, like I said, see you guys next week. This was week 9 of the AAC wrap up